Hi, I'm Malik, and we'll be going over one more bucket of testing that we do here for testing service packs, QFE, DRs. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I can stop and answer them. Or I'll be having a question and answer slide at the end. So basically we have 4 sections. That is the policy we have over here at Microsoft for accessibility, the categories of accessibility issues, and testing of accessibility, and finally the summary. So it should be quick. But if you have questions, let me know. So the policy statement is that basically we develop products and information technologies that are accessible to people with disabilities. Right? You can actually read the statement at the URL over here. So essentially the goal is that the products we develop should be available to people with various disabilities which are listed in subsequent slides. There are 3 standards that Microsoft has to comply with. That is the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Rehabilitation Act, and the Telecom Act. Basically what these acts state is around the fact that a federal government needs to buy products which are accessible. So if Microsoft makes a product which is not accessible, they would actually be forced to buy from a competitor that has accessible technology. And federal government is one of the biggest customers for Microsoft, if that gives a perspective. Number of people having disabilities, 500 million people worldwide, 54 million in US, and 30 million affected by computer accessibility issues. So essentially what we are saying is if you find an accessibility issue, you're actually impacting 30 million people. And normally, even if you find an accessibility issue at the end of a product, we still fix it. That's normally. There are always caveats to it. But whenever you say yes to accessibility, finding a bug and saying this is an accessibility bug, we would normally consider it high priority. One more thing. The key is, in service packs, we try to find bugs which are regressions. So if you find an accessibility issue which was a day 1 bug, we probably wouldn't fix it. But if it is a bug which is introduced due to a GDR or a service pack, we would consider it much more important. The Windows logo program. It's again, this is a program that applies to ISVs. These are software developers. It basically states that their application should support the accessibility standards and help reduce training and support costs. Then you have the W3C, which is the consortium that helps implement standards in the web. And again, you'll see IE also having accessibility features, same as Netscape or the other browsers. And just Microsoft in general empower people to get software anytime, any place, and on any device. Any questions till now? Or am I going too fast or too slow? Or I don't think it's slow, but.
You said government standards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are the US government standards, or do you take care of worldwide government standards?
So primarily, I believe the US government standards, the question is, do you take into account only the US government standards or other government standards as well? So primarily, I believe, is the US government standards which lead the way. So I at least don't know of other standards which are higher than the US government standards at this point. Maybe it's European Union, but I don't have much idea about that. So, we good?
Does the same standard apply to localized languages like European languages?
Oh, the question is, does the same standard apply to European languages or any localized language? Yes. Once it's built into the operating system, the same accessibility feature should be available in all languages. So let's go through some of the issue types we have. The first is visual impairments. These are the people who have problems in just seeing stuff on the screen, right? I mean, for example, a person may be colorblind, right? They might not be able to see like yellow color, right? So the workaround for such people would be having the application configurable in terms of the colors it shows. Hearing impairment, you cannot just have a beep convey a particular message, just a sound bite convey a particular message. Movement impairments, again, you can't have a restriction which says, you have to move the mouse so fast in 3 seconds or whatever. Cognitive and language impairment. This has actually more to do with a person not being able to understand what is written, or not being able to. Actually, I have a good example in my. So the example with the cognitive and language impairments is the Down syndrome and short and long-term memory impairments. And they also have perceptual differences. Again, this proper software design can help alleviate some of it, but it's not completely like something you can solve through software. And I think I missed movement. I went through movement impairments. And so some of these are temporary or permanent and not, and some of them, okay, I think it should be simple enough. Sorry. I didn't? Oh, specific patterns of light or sound can trigger epileptic seizures. So again, you shouldn't have a violently flashing application or something. Like if you have a warning message, you just calm down and not. Yeah, Windows shouldn't be popping up violent messages saying you entered the wrong password or something. So anyway, display issues. Size. Follow Windows metric for font size and control size. So we have number of places you can actually change the font you're using or the size of the font you're using. For example, if you go into display properties, you can change the font size for your title bar, for your regular Windows text. So your application, if it is a Windows application, right, if you're testing the Windows operating system, should comply with those changes, right? But the key there is that if it was not complying when it was RTM'd, right, and if it doesn't comply after installing the service pack, that's okay. Right, you probably want to file a tracking bug to ensure it gets fixed inside the next operating system, but it probably won't get fixed inside the service pack. But if you have a service pack changing the font and not complying with the Windows font that the user has chosen, then it's definitely a bug and you should file it. Same goes for sound and color. Any questions till now? Or? Context issues. Layout. Follow Windows UI conventions to provide context that defines what a control does. Actually, I come to an example where we talk about context, and I think that will make it much more clearer. But in general, just have easily identifiable context of where the input is or what you are requesting from the customer, from the user. Sorry. Timings and side effects. Again, users need to be able to enter input at their own pace and focus. Need to know where they are in the UI. Control issues. You'll actually look at an example of how control issues can affect accessibility. Control issues essentially states that you should be able to have keyboard access as well as mouse access to the same parts of your application. So I'm making some of this relatively simple. I mean, there's a lot more to it. If you really want to dig up more information, we have links at the end. But I mean, generally speaking, if you're testing your component, you have multiple buckets to test. So these are the big areas you want to look for, right? If you press the keyboard and you're not able to get to your application using the keyboard, that's really bad. That's a red flag right over there. And the same thing goes with the mouse. If you can't get to a part of your application, like you can't click on OK with the mouse, I mean, that's generally a bad sign. Then we have active accessibility. This is the standard API for exposing accessibility information. This is also what is used for developing UI automation. Things like Visual Test use MSAA. And these are the two binaries that are used in MSAA. That is OLE-ACC and OLE-ACC-RC. You can find more information about this on the accessibility website we have on ms.com. Yeah, this is not that relevant, but anyway, you have MSAA 2.0 now available off HTTP enable, HTTP enable is the internal website for accessible technology information. And that is across product groups, not just Windows. So this comes the interesting part. This is a demo where we look at how display issue. One of them is the bad. One of the diagrams or one of the screenshots over here is actually showing an accessibility issue with display. So can you identify which one it is, or what's the display issue here? Okay, so basically once you have the font size increased, you pretty much cannot read the message, right? So this is the error. And you have some. Okay, what about high contrast? I mean, this is the demo again of a high contrast accessibility issue. So one of these screenshots is bad. And can you tell me what's wrong? Somebody, one at a time.
The text is in
Who wants to? Text is not what?
The artist, title, and track aren't being shown.
Okay, yeah. So basically, we have these three. The text color is not getting changed once you change it to high contrast, right? Third one, this gets a little bit more complex in terms of what's wrong here. But one of the, and actually these are real bugs, so I should show you that. But the previous issue, the CD player one, was a real bug that was fixed. And so this is a focus issue, keyboard focus issue, and one of them is wrong. So I would like you to tell me which one is wrong. So the goal is, if you see this in your application, you should be able to identify it. And what's right one? What problem does it have?
MPC word is not captured.
The left side hierarchy doesn't highlight the directory which is selected.
The left one has two focuses.
Yeah, I think he got it. So the left one is the one which is wrong, and it actually has two focuses, right? So think of a user who has visual disability, right? This user cannot actually see what's there on the screen. They only use the computer through these MSAA exposed. So MSAA exposes APIs, and then you have third-party devices built around it. So you have things like Narrator, which is a Microsoft product, which will just read out the screen for you, right? And you have pretty much no idea what's displayed on the screen. So in that case, Narrator would get confused and wouldn't know what the application is really focused on. So this is the wrong one. And I think one more. So accessibility again. What do you think is wrong? One of them is wrong. And again, real bug. You get virtual points if you get this one. Which one? Right inside. Okay. What's wrong? That's okay. So good try. Good try. Anybody else? Great, yeah. So Windows Update doesn't have a shortcut key. So if you look at all these other options there, you look at, so this is the Microsoft Word menu, and each of these options has an Alt shortcut key, right? But if you look at the Start menu, only Windows Update doesn't have a shortcut key. So again, that is a valid accessibility issue you would fix, and you would affect 30 million users. So it's a big one. And you really would understand how much it is once you see the person using the computer without a monitor, right? And they use it in the federal government offices and a lot of places. So, and okay. And I have some examples of good accessibility bugs and bad ones, right? So a good accessibility bug, really what I'm trying to say here is that you should call a bug an accessibility bug only if it's in one of these classes, right? There's a special field in Product Studio which says accessibility yes, no. Saying a bug is accessibility yes really means a lot. I mean, really calls out the bug, and it gets a lot more attention, and you shouldn't do that wrongly, right? So you should mark the field only when it's really an accessibility issue. So the first one is where you have Explorer.exe using up 100% when you have mouse keys enabled. Mouse keys is a feature in accessibility, right? That you can move the mouse pointer through the keyboard. So once you have that enabled, you cannot use Explorer. That's your shell. So that's a valid accessibility bug. Then you have accessibility issues in update.exe, where when you're trying to install the service pack, you cannot install it just using the keyboard or just using narrator and the keyboard without actually watching it on the screen. Then you have a few bad ones. I mean, they have nothing to do with accessibility, and they were just marked as yes, and that's really bad. Any questions or? Okay, so you have to use Product Studio. Forget RAID and Tempo. You should identify and prioritize accessibility issue using this field. This actually helps the enable group to generate statistics for across Microsoft. They use these fields to generate a lot of statistics and reports. It raises awareness and documents our overall accessibility commitment. If you're unsure about the impact of a bug, email this alias or email me, and I can help you find the right contact or just give you some help on if it's an accessibility issue or not. And actually, okay. So I have a. You need to. Do you take a two-sided one? This is one-sided. Okay.
Two-sided?
Yeah, that's okay. Something like this. That's okay. It's supposed to be a flat, like a brochure.
You want to do this?
It's supposed to, yeah. Just give it out, all of them this way.
Okay, you just want them to have
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you already have it? So you can actually, this is actually a brochure. If you want, you could have folded it. But anyway, so there's an exercise which I think would be very useful for you to get a.
Not everybody has it. But at least there are
Is there a share? Not everybody has it. Could you help me distribute it, please?
Does everybody have this handout for accessibility? Do you have the last page which basically gives out information about accessibility and the tools and stuff? Who doesn't have it? Okay. If you don't have it, can you raise your hand? So everybody has this brochure or no? Okay. So accessibility again, just in summary, it's a very important feature in Windows affecting 30 million users. We should make sure we do not break any existing accessibility functionality provided in Windows 2000 or XP or Server 03 or any platform that's been released essentially. So the goal is that if the accessibility technology wasn't there when we released it at RTM, it's okay if it's not there. If it is possible, we probably get it in, right? But if the accessibility technology was built into RTM and we regress it, I mean, that's as good as a security vulnerability. It's pretty big. We really have to fix it in most cases. It's a caveat, but again, you should really take accessibility bugs very seriously. Any new UI should meet accessibility standards. So a good place to find accessibility bugs is in new UI. For example, in XP/SP2, they introduced a few new dialog boxes, a few new interfaces, and that if you were testing XP/SP2, that would be a good place to go and catch some accessibility bugs. Accessibility is one of the very few areas where we'll accept severe non-regression bugs late in the service pack cycle. Okay, and now is my tester checklist, which is what each of you have. Basically, we have, I think I give examples of, can you give me one of them? Do you have? Do you have one extra?
Use this.
I think.
Maybe you want to show this.
It's too far. So again, the tester checklist are when you're testing an application or if you're testing a Windows feature, these are the issues you should actually go and review. The keyboard access, keyboard focus, support high contrast, support show sounds. Show sounds is a technology which will actually kind of put a message when you have a sound, just a sound beeping.
You want to put it up there so that we can focus the camera there? Or?
Sure, I can actually open it here. I don't know.
Let's go through it slowly so the camera can capture what are we explaining.
Yeah, so these are the items in the checklist that the tester should basically ensure we are still fixing when we put out a service pack or a patch or whatever. So these are the 6 items again: keyboard access, keyboard focus, high contrast, show sound, and again respect user preferences. We have talked about that before when you change the font size and change the colors. That should work. And then you have offer multiple output methods. Application shouldn't only have one way of communicating information to the user. I think some of this is more reference also. You can actually, if you're creating a tool, these are the APIs you can use for making sure your tool is accessible. Now we also have some accessibility tools which will help you understand a little bit more of what the interfaces are seeing when the application is running. And so the activity which you want to do when you get back is basically to switch off your monitor and try the computer just using narrator. Narrator will read out the screen for you. You should be able to use it. It's not that bad, but you still see areas where you really get broken down. For example, I think one of the technologies, some of the web technologies which are ActiveX technologies, some of them don't implement accessibility correctly, so you just won't be able to know what's there. And some of the other such technology which don't have accessibility. But it's a good exercise to actually realize how a blind person would be using the computer. So basically turn off your monitor, use a narrator, and see how it goes. So that's all I had. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Do you get any accessibility issues out of new hardware? Suppose this has released a new VJ card maybe, and its driver, will it cause any accessibility issues? Then how are you doing that?
Okay, so the question is, do you get accessibility issues from new hardware? Frankly, I haven't seen one, but I can't imagine why that cannot happen. But again, if it's a third-party driver, that is something that is a third-party bug, really not our bug. So you need to kind of draw a line where what is a Windows bug rather than a third-party bug. So if you wouldn't be able to fix their bug. Any other questions? And here are some accessibility resources. You can actually visit these websites and get more information out of this. And email me if you have questions. Thank you.